Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Summer McGaughey. She is a clairvoyant, channeler, and certified past life regressionist. Her work combines mediumship with her passion for past life regression to help us on our spiritual journeys. In this episode, we'll talk about her experiences with past life hypnosis and how it has enhanced her work. Summer, welcome to the program.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, clairvoyant, that does imply mediumship, does it not?
It does. Yes,
okay.
It does.
I've noticed that some people that have these skills don't use the term medium. They use something different like intuitive or clairvoyant. Do you think it's because they're trying to avoid some kind of a stigma with mediumship, or is it something else?
Some may be trying to avoid that stigmatism with that and with the impression that comes around it. For me, most of my communication is not with someone who has passed. Most of my communication is with the higher realm entities, is a good way to put it. And so that's why I prefer to say clairvoyant or channeler, because I do conscious and trance channel. And so that's where my comfort is with that. I will connect with someone who's passed if a client asks for that, but that's not my normal connection.
So what prompted you to explore past lives then?
It was very interesting. So it was at the very beginning of the spiritual journey that I'm on, and after I awoken and realized what my own gifts were, I was visiting a medium who was doing channeling, this lady by the name of Grace. She was going around the room and giving everybody an individual reading. And when she got to me, I said, "Hello, Gracie." And I was thrown off about why I said Gracie. And then she said, "Well, it's nice to see you again." And I'm like, "This is my first time here, so I don't understand the nice to see you again." And so the whole time I was just caught up into that right there. And after the event, I asked another lady that had been going there for a while, "Why do you think I said these things?" And she's like, "It was probably a past life." And I'm like, "What's a past life?" She's like, "Well, we've been here before. We've done many lives." And I was like, oh, I immediately got interested. That really just turned up my interest. And from that, I set my first past life regression, and it completely changed how I look at life and how I even respond to myself in this lifetime.
So when you say channeling higher entities as opposed to the medium that typically will try to reach past loved ones and friends and that type of thing, what type of entities do you often come across?
So I connect with a Palladian group. They call themselves the Armana. They're my collective that I connect with.
The Armana. That's a cool name.
The Armana. It is a cool name. I even had to ask, what does this mean? It's a group that come together to move forward in an action.
Pleiadians. What you're basically saying is that you connect with star beings as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I have channeled like a couple of the archangels. And when they do, like, that feeling that they have is much different than what I'm used to.
I also noticed, since you brought it up, when experiencers talk about channeling and communicating with star beings, the archangels do come up quite a bit. Do you find that as well?
I do. I think they're all working in that same realm. I think that's what kind of helps the two of them come together. And the archangels, I feel, have the ability to move to different realms easier than maybe the star beings do. And so I feel like they do an integrated work, if that makes sense. Like, they come together to work together to either share messages or get things across or even to make things happen. And so sometimes it's easier for us. I think it's all on who the recipient is. And it's not only like who the channeler is, but it's who's sitting across from that channeler receiving that information. I think that's what depends on who's going to come through and what they're going to say and how they're going to say it.
Now, when you say the archangels can move within different realms, what are the other realms, in other words? Is the spirit realm all-encompassing or not necessarily?
I think there's like different vibrational levels within the spiritual realm. And not only can they move to all those different vibrational levels, but they can also come to our physical plane as well. They don't do it near as much as they have many centuries ago, because they have enough prophets here in the world today to where they don't necessarily need to show up as they did before. But What I'm hearing is that they can travel from our physical realm through all the different various levels in the spiritual realm within our knowledge. Like they can go beyond our knowledge, but for me to explain that, they can go to all the different levels that we're well aware of.
So the spiritual realm, is there a certain number of levels or not really?
The numbers are infinite, but there's only so much that we can understand being in our human brains, right? Being in this physical body with our human brain, there's only so much we can understand.
Understood. Going back to the past life memories, do you recognize people in this life that you have known before?
I have, and a lot of times those recognitions are people that you connect with immediately. Like you'll meet a stranger and all of a sudden you feel like you're best friends, or you feel like you've met before, but you know that you really haven't met because your paths have not crossed in this lifetime. So those are the people that you more than likely have spent a lifetime with somewhere else. But it's usually those instant connections, or it could even be like you meet somebody and you get that instinct that, oh, you need to be careful around them, right? There's some kind of a warning sign that comes with them, per se. And those are also individuals that you have, in fact, come here to reincarnate with them in another lifetime for whatever lesson or purpose that y'all had together.
As part of a soul group?
As part of a soul group, or even as part of a lesson. Like some people will volunteer to come and help you with specific lessons or specific things that you want to learn or discover during this time.
It's something that we tend to hear over and over again, too. So with your sessions, how do you combine the mediumship with a past life regression?
They don't always go together, but many times they do. And so I've had sessions where the client is expressing something, then all of a sudden I get this urge to channel a message to them that's relevant to the time that they're visiting or the experience that they're having at that time. It's not so much of an urge, but it's like a must when I have to channel, when it has to come through. Allowing that to flow through is very important. So I have done that with a few clients. And the good thing about it is like I record it. And a lot of times the clients will record that too, so they get that message as well, even if they may not remember it during the actual session. But it usually resonates with them somehow or another, and they can be able to take that with them in their own knowing. There's been times where I use my intuition for the hypnosis progression. So, for instance, a real remarkable experience. This young lady, we were in a session and we were visiting her third life. And immediately she's like, I'm in a trash bag and I'm in the ocean. I just got thrown in the ocean. And I was like, the first thing that came to me was saying is we need to get her out of that bag. And so I asked, can you tear your way through the bag? She's like, I don't know. And then I was instructed to tell her, do everything you can. Use your teeth, use your nails, whatever you can do to break away the bag. And she broke away the bag, and then she started swimming to the surface. And she was astonished that she could swim because she didn't know how to swim. And then when she made it to land, she wanted to explore and see what was there. And I was like, let's rest. So let's stay here for a moment and let's rest. And she's like, the bag is still tied to me. I was like, we need to throw away the bag. So she sat up and she started untangling this bag that was wrapped around her ankles. You could see her working the knots and tearing. And then I gave her a portal to throw the bag away in. And so she threw the bag away. I couldn't physically see the bag. I could just see her going through the movements of moving the bag. But you could tell that she was trying to untie knots and unwrap things from around her ankle.
This is a past life, right?
Yeah, it was a past life. But the most remarkable thing is she threw the bag away, and then all of a sudden she started physically throwing up. She threw up for about 5 minutes straight. And I went and got a rag so she could wipe her face off with. And she sits up and she's like, I'm ready to go explore. It was the most amazing thing. And my first thought about that is that we changed that past life's history.
You changed it. It sounds as if that memory is not a static memory. It's not a film loop. It's not a reel that you can just play and rewind. You can actually go in and change it. That memory, whenever it was, do you have any idea like what decade or what century that was, or did you not have any bearing on that?
No, we didn't have any bearing on that. It was a time where they would have put your trash in bags and thrown it in the ocean. And so it was at least when we had plastic bags around.
So when you change a memory, it's not as if you went back in time and actually changed that event, or did you?
I think we did. And the only reason I think we did is because the physical reaction she had to it is one. Two, the astonishment of she wanted to explore where she was. She wanted to see more. What I take from it is that originally in that life, she died in that bag. And when we changed that, because she had no recollection, one thing she wanted to do is go check it out. And I was like, we can come back here anytime, but we need to heal from what you just went through.
Have some of your clients experienced the life between lives stage?
They've had experiences where when they were not in a place or time, but they were in space, but they received messages from, some say a god, some say they're guides, some say they're teachers. Like they've received messages there, but they're just like floating in space and there's nothing else around them. And either something appears or they're just hearing the voice, right? So a lot of times like something appears and they start talking to us, so it's a light or it's a being with them, but they can't put any real shape or form to it.
So in your experience with past lives, and especially the regression sessions that you offer your clients, what are some of the misconceptions about that whole process?
So first thing everybody asks is, am I going to remember any of it? Absolutely. You're probably going to remember all of it and more, because once you tap into that subconscious and you open up your subconscious mind to that level, you open up additional memories, right? Not only from the lifetimes that you experienced during the session, but even others can start making their way through, so you can remember those as well. So the first thing is you're definitely going to remember it, because most people feel that they're not going to remember it. A lot of times they want to make sure that they're not going to do anything. The stage hypnosis that we've all seen, whether in movies or at the fairgrounds, where they're getting people to do silly things, you're going to be very much aware of everything that happens. Not only for the hypnosis, but if I touch you or if something happens in the room, you're going to be very much aware. So just because you're in a relaxed, hypnotic state doesn't mean that you don't know what's going on.
With the channeling, there's different types. You mentioned
the conscious channel and a trance channel. So the conscious channel is just me and you sitting here talking, and you can tell it's clearly me. My eyes are open. We're having a conversation. But when I go into a trance channel, my eyes are closed. I kind of step back and I let spirit communicate through me. And I'm not going to remember very much of it, if any at all.
When you do that, do you record those events of those sessions?
It depends. If I'm doing it for a group of people, I don't. If I'm doing it for me and whatever message that I need to get to my audience, then I will. I do a newsletter, so I'll channel a message for the newsletter, right? And so I'll record it and then just put it into a written format.
What's the difference when you have a client that wants to connect with someone, a loved one or a friend who's passed, versus someone who wants to know who their higher self is or wants an answer to a question that doesn't involve a deceased loved one? Is the trance channeling more appropriate for some things and then the conventional mediumship for others?
Yes. So, yeah, a lot of times it all depends on who's sitting on the other side of that table, right? Who's sitting across from me and how the information's coming. Sometimes the information comes through and I'm like, it's just easier if I just step out of the way. So I ask them, are you okay with me just channeling this? Most of them say yes. And so I'll do my best without channeling it, without going into that trance state. The trance state is easier because I get out of the way, my mind gets out of the way, and my bias gets out of the way.
Wouldn't that be more helpful with evidential findings if you get yourself out of the way?
Yeah, it actually is. But the people on the other side may not be very comfortable with that. They get spooked out, right? Some of my clients are new to the whole experience, so they're not open. Freaks them out a little bit, scares them.
For someone who's an observer just trying to figure out how all this stuff works, I would think that there might be some kind of intersection, because those people coming through and those entities that come through via channeling, they might even be occupying the same space.
No, I think they can definitely be in the same space. But I will say, like, connecting with someone who's passed, like in the true mediumship, that's a little bit more challenging. they're lower vibration, and so I have to bring my vibrational levels down to be able to hear and communicate with them versus the higher realms, the Pleiadians or the archangels, just because of the way the connection happens. Now, early on, when I first started doing my mediumship, it was very easy for me to connect with someone who had passed on. So I guess my skill levels have changed, or my connection has changed.
Or the frequency band that you live in or your skill set lives in. It's like a bracket. It can move up and down. It's not necessarily good or bad. It just, that's where you are.
Yeah, it's just where I am on the radio dial.
Frequencies. We hear a lot about frequencies.
Yes.
Vibration. It almost has a woo-woo type connotation, but when people talk about frequencies, it makes it a little bit more scientific, if that makes any sense. When you try to explain to someone, like every medium has told me, my friends and my family, when they pass, where they go, you know what the answer is? Right here.
They're all right here.
They're living on a different level. It's on the radio dial.
Yep. So let's say we're in an FM and they're probably in an AM.
It's probably the other way around. We're on the AM.
I agree.
That would make sense, right?
Yeah, after I said it, I was like, yeah, it's really backwards. Yeah, I'm dyslexic anyway, so that makes sense.
Speaking of frequencies, we also hear a lot of people, intuitives and so forth, talking about raising the vibration, ascension, moving from 3D to 5D and just becoming more enlightened. What has your experience in your world taught you about what we need to know about that?
So the most important thing that I can say is to try to stay in a space of love and of nurturing. A lot of this also means taking care of yourself. So it's not just taking care of your physical body, but it's also taking care of your mind, your spirit, and your soul. Mental health is very important, I think, in this field as well. Being grounded is also really essential in any of this work if you're trying to expand your spiritual growth and trying to ascend to a higher vibrational level. Staying grounded is truly important. The more you can stay grounded and pull the energy all the way down and towards the earth and into the earth, the better and the easier it is. Believe it or not, I'm sure you've known mediums and people that's in this space to where if they're always floating in that higher space, they can lose themselves. I know it sounds very counterintuitive for the work that we do, but it's actually what makes the work better.
What is your advice for people that want to go see a medium, do's and don'ts? What would you tell them?
Don't discount what you hear. If you're receiving information and it doesn't automatically resonate with you, don't discount it. Make a note of it, because I guarantee you 99% of the time it's going to make sense down the road.
At some point.
At some point it's going to resonate and it's going to be right on. So make note of it. Don't discount it. Some of the symbols that mediums may use for things, understand that if they tell you what the symbol is, many of us will say, this is what it means for me, but it may mean something else for the receiver. So if they're seeing a symbol, take into account what it means for the medium, but also take into account what it means for you as well, because it could be that symbol actually for you under your meaning of it. As the medium is telling you information and giving you information, if you can have that conversation back and forth with them, it actually helps the information come in even louder. And so I know if I have clients and we're having a conversation and I'm sharing with them and they're providing feedback or what it means to them, it actually makes that connection a little bit stronger. And it's not necessarily the connection between me and whoever they're wanting to communicate with. It's between me and the reader. And our energies start coming together and start connecting, which makes the information from their guides and their loved ones come in even stronger. So if you're just sitting back and you're not saying anything, you're very disconnected from that reading. So the more you're engaged into it, the more information you're going to get.
Okay, but what about in the very beginning? I've been told by several mediums that the sitter should give as little information as possible. It's really just a good rule of thumb to just let whoever wants to come through, because, as you touched on earlier, their bias and maybe even their imagination could actually get in the way.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like at the beginning, I'm not telling you like feed them information, but at least just have an ongoing conversation. Because I don't want to know anything about my readers before they come to me. Because usually I'll just say, what brings you here today? Or I'll just start telling them what I'm receiving. Sometimes they'll say they have a specific question they need answered. And so I'll be like, what's your question? And then sometimes they just want to know what's on the other side and what needs to be shared with them. Once the information starts coming through, engage back with them just to make that connection stronger. There's times where I'll have 13 reader clients in a day, and sometimes just to clear the energy from one and to be able to reconnect with another one, I have them like draw an oracle card or something just so we can build that connection. Like they're not really telling me anything. I'll lay the deck in front of them and I'll ask them to choose a card and ask them to hand it to me. And when I do that, I'm not necessarily reading that oracle card. I'm connecting with their energy. So it's just an introduction to their energy to me.
It sounds like it's the spiritual equivalent of cleansing the palate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I do think that sitters need to be aware of certain things. One point where there is a consensus is don't give them too much information. If they're genuine, something usually will come through. Now, if the person, like you say, is closed off and not giving you any energy, then maybe no one will come through. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it is true. And I've had to just tell people, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not getting anything. And we end the session. If they want to continue to try, of course we will. But if they're coming closed off, they're not ready for whatever information's available there anyway. And the only thing that's going to come through is information that they're ready to hear.
Okay, so if they're not ready to hear, right.
I'm not going to get it, yeah.
All right. Very cool information. Summer, thanks for joining us. Very practical information for prospective sitters, which I think they need to know these things. In the meantime, how can our listeners find you online?
So I have a website, www.just-be-true.com, and I'm on Instagram at SummerMagic22, and Facebook is Just Be True.
You've been listening to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. In the meantime, you can find more information on closertovenus.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.